मूलम् अधः शाखम् अश्वत्थं प्राहुरव्ययम् छन्दांसि यस्य पर्णानि यस्तं वेद स वेदवित्। अश्वत्थः सर्ववृक्षाणां देवर्षीणां च नारदः गन्धर्वाणां चित्ररथः सिद्धानां कपिलो मुनिः।
Pranam. On behalf of IC Care and Jalsa Chandra Performing Troupe, I welcome you to PRANITWA, a week-long festival of nature and art. We have commenced our festival with planting a few trees around Kolkata. We will be planting more trees in the recent future as well. Art and nature has a very fine and intricate bonding. To know more about the relation between the two and to know and to spread a social message, we are very, very honored, very grateful to have with us today Padma Shri Natya Kala Acharya Guru Smt Chitra Visweswaran. Pranam Akka, thank you so much. Thank you so much for agreeing, for sparing your time for this and sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you so much, Akka. Pranam.
Namaskar.
A living legend in the field of Indian classical dance, who has the distinction of being a scholar, thinker, and seeker. Sangeet Natak Academy Awardee, Padma Shri, Natya Kala Acharya, Guru Smt Chitra Visweswaran. We are humbled to have you in our endeavour. There is lot of achievements all through the years. There are, I'll just, in short, we have just, selected a few of it and which needs to be mentioned. Guru Smt Chitra Visweswaran's first guru at the age of 3 was her mother, Srimati Rukmini Padmanabhan, who was an excellent dancer, trained in the Uday Shankar School of Dance and Bharatanatyam. After initiation into dance by her mother, she undertook training in Western classical ballet in London at the age of 3, which was followed by her training in Manipuri and Kathak in Kolkata. At the age of 10, she went under the tutelage of one of the best Devaдаsis of Thiruvidaimadur, Guru Srimati T.A. Rajalakshmi, who was then settled in Calcutta. Her Arangatram, an astonishingly short period to achieve the degree of proficiency that Chitraka did, took place within 10 months. In addition, Chitraka learned Carnatic music, Robindra Nitya, Robindra Sangeet, lighting, stagecraft, and as a youngster also acted in theatre productions. A few amongst several titles and awards received nationally and internationally are Kalaimamani, Tamil Nadu government, Nitya Churamani, Shri Krishna Gana Sabha Chennai, Nitya Vilas, Sur Shringar Samsad Mumbai, Nritya Ratnakara, Bhairavi Fine Arts Cleveland. She has been the president of Abhay. She has researched and presented at a point when such works were almost unheard of. She has researched and presented Kautvams, Ritis, numerous renowned poets and writers. She has been the state representative of the General Council of Central Sangeet Natak Academy as well. And there are many other accolades. Again, we are humbled and honored to have you, Akka, with us. Without much ado, I'll start with this endeavor is because during Amphan, the cyclone that took place in Kolkata, we have lost thousands of trees. And this month, the month of July, happens to be the month of Van Mahotsav. So linking both, we thought of we are going to plant some trees, and obviously nature and art has such a fine bonding. To know more, to delve into the relationship between art and nature, we want to know a bit from you as well. I'll start, Akka. A sapling grows into a tree, and with its leaves and fruits, it gives birth to new seeds. An artist develops from a young dancer to become a performer, a choreographer, then a teacher. How would you draw a parallel between the growth of a sapling and a growth of the artist?
You're absolutely parallel, Jalsa, because, we all are part of nature. And let me first congratulate you on what you're doing. Because I think enough people do not give importance to nature and the part nature plays in our lives. And I think all that happens is because we do not give Prakriti the respect she deserves. We do not adore her. It's not enough if we adore her as Shakti. We have to adore her in all her manifestations. And I think this project that you've undertaken is very important because it is the denudation of forests that are leading to no rain coming down. It's so cyclic. There are no clouds formed, no rains for coming down, no agriculture. The earth is parched. It's a sad state. It's a sad state. But it's so interesting when you talk about the parallel between an artist and a sapling. Because I do remember you mentioned my award, Natya Chudamani, which I received from Sri Krishna Sabha, actually when I was 30. And it was very cherished and coveted award. See, I remember at that time, now that you triggered it, that I spoke about the growth of an artist in parallel to a sapling.
Oh.
See, the first our talent has to be identified. I have been very blessed that I had parents who identified my talent. Yes, as artists, we also sing, we also play instruments, we also write poetry, we paint. Usually, an artist is quite holistic. But what is your strength? And after finding the strength, the seed has to be planted. And it's very important that the roots should be strong. It has to be nurtured. So you have to be put under the best of teachers who will nurture it with manure, with water, and the roots grow strong because we should be able to stand any breeze, take any heat. Even in our life, we have cyclones. We have now COVIDs. We have sun beating down upon us in negative ways also. So our roots need to be strong. So the parent and the teacher, the Acharya together, with the identification and the nurturing of the roots, make the sapling grow. And as the sapling grows, slowly it spreads out. The leaves first come. That's when we first start opening out. We first start receiving the energy of nature. And then we grow further. And then the tree with all the boughs is grown. And then it flowers, it bears fruit. So it's like that as you are nurtured, as you get in the inputs of various various, I would say, streams. It's not just you need the rain, you need the sun. One is like in the form of music, one is in the form of mythology, one is in the form of technicalities, one is in the form of grammar. As we receive all these, we strengthen and we slowly become a tree. Now, after we become trees and we have enjoyed and received all that we can in terms of different cognate art forms like literature, which are like poetry, whatever. That is what enriches us. And that is our sun, that is our breeze, that is our rain, that is our manure, that is everything that makes us what you are. And then you start bearing flowers, and maybe that is the stage when you perform, and it's attractive. I think we have to give due respect to the fact that an artist wants to perform. If it's a performing art, if it's not a performing art, a painter would want to paint. It's not just enough be intellectualizing about painting. It must be it must be an experience. Otherwise, how does it become your own? So after that happens, the fruit is born, which again is what is the phalam of all your work over the years. And then again, from that, the next seed comes. From the flowers, the bees carry the pollen elsewhere. And that is how, as you create your immediate students, baby, sitting right next to you and becoming little trees, like you have the banyan tree, becoming another root. But your students who are either at a distance or they consider you a Manasika Guru, because all of us need inspiration to look up to. And they are like the ones who have been nurtured as the honeybee takes nectar from the flower and carries it away.
Right. Yes, so beautifully explained. Yes, yes. It's not only the immediate guru or the person you're just learning. It is others also. It is a because yes, similar to, you can say, nature, right? Like this learning process, you have to imbibe from so many places, and inspiration is not from one person. Inspiration is from everywhere, and so that travel and that is like you have to take it from everywhere, and you have to grow.
Everywhere. I always feel that I always feel I'm like the river Ganga. When I say I, it's not the I me, but it is any artist, because you come from your roots, you flow down, and you're youthful in the Himalayas, you come down to the plains, you imbibe from tributaries. It's not just as an Indian classical dancer that I just only look to India for inspiration. There's inspiration everywhere. There's inspiration globally. There's inspiration in the heavens. And then you keep taking from the tributaries, enriching yourself. Then you come to the Gangetic plain. You give of yourself. You're the rice bowl of the entire country. And then slowly your gait slows down as you come to the Sundarbans, the heavy clay, which makes you slow down. As in age comes. And then finally, before meeting the Sagara, you just burst into so many in the estuary, eager to meet the groom and you, the bride. The Vivatma, the Parma.
Paramatma. Yes.
Yes, that's another, I would say, analogy from nature that I identify with. And I also think I have been very lucky. I had a very good grammar with Srimati T. Radhalakshmi in Kolkata. And when I came to the great Barur Ramya Pillai, he used to always, it's very interesting that in a class, normally what do people expect? That they will take the tattakari and you'll be dancing all the time. And if you're not dancing, it's not a class. He would talk a lot to us about history, about what happened, his Vamsa, how Natyam was, how music was, how it is. All these things are like, the rain and the sun and the breeze and everything. And he used to say, look out of the window. That's all he used to say. That means observe nature. Where do you need inspiration from? But from nature, because I think instead of looking just at a book or reading something, I see everything reflected in nature, movement in nature, grace in nature, color in nature, the cosmos in nature.
Yes. Yes. So that is the most important inspiration, nature, for an
Yes,
artist to develop,
absolutely.
and the ties and the relations and the parallelity between both is so much in it. I mean, it is similar, and there is lot to learn from nature as an artist, and it is an example, like being with nature and the development of an artist is similar, you can, as you said.
Very
The next question was like, with every new sapling there is a new life, which requires different ways of nurturing, as you were saying. Similarly, as a choreographer, he or she nurtures his or her creation. If you would kindly throw light on what the knowledge and the quality of a choreographer should possess to put life to his or her creation.
it's not just a choreographer, but also as an acharya,
As
as
an,
a
as a
teacher.
Yes.
You have to be very sensitive to each person, each artist. You see, I personally always, a choreographer should be very conscious of space. And space, how do you use space? What is the type of space you use? Is it just, it could be an open air stage, it could be a proscenium stage, or like the NCPA Tata Theatre, it could be a semicircular stage, and it could be a black box. Actually, the choreography should actually first suit the space. And sometimes I've even done this, and the dancers and participants have to be very alert to space. So you must sensitize them to space, because when we go and perform in a place which is not a typical proscenium theater, then I tweak the movements to suit the space, and the artist has to be alert to that. Then again, I think it's not just the dancer should remember that there is floor space, there is also akasha space, and space which can be addressed with movements. Now, for instance, even an adave, basic unit of dance movement, you have flat movements, you have circular movements, you have circular horizontally. I think it's very important, and you should also, as a choreographer, see what looks good. What looks good in a solo doesn't always look good in a group.
Group.
And if everyone in a group is just doing identically the same thing, standing in a line, it doesn't make sense. There has to be complementing. And I think it's very important that the dancers, the dancers in Chidambaram Dance Company or whoever has worked with me, I sensitize them to space, to movement. And I think an interaction with each other is very important, because otherwise it can be 8 soloists and not one whole. But that doesn't mean I want them to be a factory line and they all should be identical. The skeleton will be similar, but the fleshing out, because even in a group, you can bring out the strength of each dancer. That is important. And I also think it is important that being from Kolkata, where lighting is very advanced, because that is where was the root of my lighting. With people talk about the lighting in my productions, but that's all from Papushta. That is he is the father, Pitamaha of creative lighting. And you see, I think the dancers also have to be very sensitive to lighting. Actually, once we did Panchali as a production, and I had used floor lighting for the Kauravas and lighting from the top for the Pandavas. And these Pandavas was an ochre and red for Kauravas. So just the qualities. And this, I think, and I try to awaken my students also to painting. or my dancers that way, to painting, because when you see the play of light in painting, for instance, the Renaissance painters, they just stripped the canvas of all darkness and brought in the flow of light and shade. So that if the proscenium is a canvas, our dance is the painting, and we are the forms that, and the choreographer paints with the vision of the choreography. So it's something you must be sensitized to lighting too, and to space, lighting, to music. Each one should be, it's not enough if you know music. Sometimes I've come across dancers who do not know music per se, but they're so sensitive to music. Because unless, everything is not that it's something that you refer to a book when you're dancing, but it's something that has to be, everything has to become part of your being, so that at that point of time, you become one with it. And you don't have to be thinking. You don't perform from there. You perform from here.
Yeah.
And that's when you reach across. Then similarly, you have to be very sensitive to poetry, to literature, and well, and also what is dance finally? Is it just at a very physical level? I they have they have to be awakened and go on the path of first as a physical journey. Then it becomes a mental journey when you start understanding the form and the grammar, and then it becomes an emotional journey when you involve yourself emotionally and you learn you learn how to express. Then becomes an intellectual journey and mental journey when you research, and where it becomes an intellectual journey. Finally, at its best, it's a spiritual journey. So there are different stages. And again, dancers need to be sensitized to all these levels, and characterization is very, very important. And I think if you study literature, your concept of characterization is strengthened. Now, for instance, we talk about Hasya, one of the Navarasas. Everybody who knows theatre or dance, or even I think music, know what the Navarasas are. So you see Hasya, but should we not go deep into the character? Now, for instance, we are showing Rama with Hasya. Then you show Ravan with Hasya. They have to be so different because it is Hasya, but who is showing the Hasya? So understanding of the character is important. Similarly, for Srihasta, keeping the flower like this is typical. But is it a Kaikai or is it a Sita? A Kaikai would be more arrogant, demanding the boons, a Sita more gentle. So unless you understand the character, so which again leads you to the fact that a lot of reading is essential. It should not be, I'm reading this because I'm going to do this piece which is from the Ramayana, so I will read this alone and I will understand the characters there. I think general reading in any language is a must. There's so many things. There's no end to what we can learn, no end to the voyage of discovery, no end to how high we can fly.
Yes. So there is no end to learning, and there is and creations carry on. I mean, it will go on and on because it is an ever ending. Because you are always learning, and there is always inspiration. You draw inspiration from everywhere and keep on producing, reproducing, and that is the beauty of art, and that is the beauty of choreographies and productions. And we have seen Akka's wonderful. I have witnessed a few, and It is always, and that you have always spoken of that union of Jivatma and Paramatma. You have spoken of that. You have taught us that that utilization of space, energy. You used to say that internalized energy, that internal energy has to be put for external energy. How to that was the most important thing. Like how to take that energy out and that vibration across the stage, put that vibration across. That's what. So there
Did
are,
I teach you that? I don't remember, but it's a very important aspect of how I look at
yeah,
Natya, because the cosmic and you are as one. You bring in that energy, and that energy
yes,
bursts out. Yes.
yes. Okay, so the next question was, for a child, a sapling is like a playmate. As a teenager, the plant becomes a friend. As an adult, it becomes a source of inspiration, which inspires to face setbacks in life. And at old age, it becomes a reminiscent. So, with time, a sapling grows to become a tree, and a young child matures to become an elderly. If you can kindly explain this metamorphosis through a short abhinaya or something that you can, some sahitya or something, that how relationships change, how your perspective changes.
I don't have the music now. It's a little
Just
difficult.
explain, if you can just explain.
But wasn't this part of my first answer? In my first answer itself, I spoke of this.
Yes, it was this, but what I was wanting was like, how should I say? It was I mean, I wanted some expressions or something, as if you can explain also, like what is the relationship, like a child and a childhood. I mean, that Vatsalya Rasa and looking at a tree, and maybe then later when I'm growing, then I look at that tree as my beloved, maybe, and
Mm,
then I see that as my companion, somebody whom I can share my thoughts with, and that,
mm.
and finally at my end of my life, I seek refuge, I seek moksham from that tree. So it is something, a journey.
Can we take this question later?
Yes, okay, okay.
Yes.
um Aka, you have choreographed many pieces on different literary works of poets. Can you, and you have worked a lot on Tagore. Can you explain? And Tagore, for Tagore, nature is a very, very important aspect for him. His creation of Shantiniketan, his building of Shantiniketan, he believed in nature. He believed in development of education in the hubs, in the labs of nature. So, so can you share your experience of how you have worked with Tagore's works, or some stories where you have worked with nature and some aspects?
Okay. Actually, having grown up in Bengal, you cannot but become a great follower of Tagore. And maybe that is what also brought me so close to nature, this poetry, Ravindra Sangeet, Ravindra Nritya. And these have been source of constant inspiration in the way I even look at the body. I look at movement. For me, and it was augmented when I went to the great Varur Ramya Pillai, because he never used to say, bend. He'd say, become a creeper. You see, the analogies. Or he would not say leap. He would say become a deer. So the deer, the leaping, see, the deer is also part of nature, isn't it? And
Yes.
again, the sapling, it flows. So when we talk about, and here I can bring to you the analogy of how the tree becomes your lover at a point where you are a creeper and you hug the tree and grow along it. That analogy can be used here. And again, you see in Tagore so much of uh, connection between human nature and human response to Prakriti, which is amazing. And I remember having danced in Chandalika in college, and I studied in Lady Brabon, and I was Baudrillard. And various other learning Robindra Nritya, learning smaller pieces, well-known pieces where you are always singing about nature. But I think at one point of time, after I came to Chennai, and I was actually asked to do a project on Tagore's works for uh, television, but it didn't take off. That the first poem from Gitanjali, he wanted it translated in Tamil and so the first one was translated, and my husband had tuned it, and it was very beautiful. So it stopped with that because you see the project didn't take off. So after my husband uh, passed away, I decided to use harness, make this the harness of an entire production. Called it Nirantara. And I equated it with the 7 stages in the life of a woman, which is there in Tamil literature. So and I took suitable pieces for each stage in which the songs from nature, which would relate to each stage, were intertwined. And I used Carnatic music in only Akaram before each to introduce. There wasn't any verbose explanation of each stage before that, but it was in Akaram. For instance, even the birth of a child was there done in Akaram, and the mother becomes, and the little baby is born. And then you have, and then when you're young, you fly like a bird. You see again that analogy with nature. So many things, and even when talk about the baby in the crib, how the analogy of the plants around and the beautiful nature around. All these for every stage in life, including widowhood. I took the Ghosh songs. And I related to it very deeply because I just lost my husband at that time. And then I used these pieces to harness it together. So though it doesn't directly deal with a tree, but then everything is part of nature. And that is how I had this very personal equation with this particular production and to go.
Yes, and you have this was performed once in Kolkata as well.
Yes.
At
Now
the
that you tell me,
Villa
yes, yes.
Savagar. At the Villa Savagar.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yes, and
I think that was the first time we ever did it because I was asked to do a work on do a production on Tagore's works.
okay.
So I set it up at that.
Yeah, I saw it. It was wonderful. It was so beautiful, and yes, because I feel Abhinaya. I just love and I respect the way you what should I say, experiment with Abhinaya, the way you deal with Abhinaya. It has always been an inspiration, and I've learned a lot from you.
Thank you.
Uh, the this was also, I guess, this question was also you have partially answered it in the beginning, that art comes from nature, as said earlier, and nature moves towards spiritualism.
Yes.
So how can this greater truth of life be reached, that, and how according to you are they connected, art, nature, and finally spiritualism?
I think it's a very personal journey for each artist. So you see, it's we cannot generalize. It's not a formula. It's something. It's a very personal connect. But for me, basically, each time I dance, as I become older, all the more, I am so conscious that nothing of this body could move without a command from the absolute. And you realize that the art is greater than the artist. So it is not just a spiritual experience, because we in Bharatanatyam and many of our classical dance styles, we talk about the gods. It's not just because of that. Because then why does it Tilana? Why is that? Can that become a spiritual experience? You see, you have the Anandamaya Kosha within you that is tapped and awakened. And you know that adrenaline that shoots you, takes you on high. And you can get out of this body and observe yourself as a third person. And that's what a spiritual experience is. And that is what, when you feel that in your movement, that you may not be actually depicting a wave or depicting the breeze, but in every movement, if you feel the energy within you, that is a great spiritual experience of fulfillment and joy. But this is something very personal, and each person should find their own path. Discover yourself, discover nature, become one with nature. For instance, one of my favorite um, occupations, I would say, is just to sit and stare out of the window. To see, I see a bud one day, it becomes a flower the next day. You see the leaves, the petals blossoming. You see the breeze. You feel the breeze. You become the breeze. You see fire. You see a Homa. You see a big uh, yaga is being done, and I felt drawn towards it. When the Agni dances, I feel it is a dancer dancing, because movements, the way it goes, the forms, you see wild sculpture, you see Durga, then you see the cone of fire of Tiruvannamalai, then you see a more gentle, in a Sudarshana homam, you find a gentle rising of the Agni. All these, and you identify with it, and identification slowly becomes realization.
Beautifully explained. Yes. So nice, beautifully explained by you. Yes, nature, and so it is like always you have to draw inspiration as you have been watching. So as I think as young artists, also we also should learn more from nature, understand nature, and nature teaches so well, be it movement, be it the philosophy. Uh,
Absolutely.
we have to learn, we have to understand those, and I also feel like there are like nature hints, gives those hints, we have to understand.
Yes,
we have to,
yes.
we have to catch it, we have to understand, and then we have to imply it, imbibe it in our form, and then it becomes natural and it becomes realistic,
Yes.
and that's when I think that's when that entire that fulfillment comes in any.
Thomas Carlyle said, you have to develop a seeing eye and a hearing ear. That is very important. You should just not look, you should see. So should have a seeing eye, a hearing ear, hear the sounds of nature, see the beauty that is there, what is behind it. Lie on your back on a dark night and look up at the skies. What beauty is up there? Unfortunately, in metros today, we can't see the sky. And one thing with the lockdown, what happened is, many, many years, even though, as you know, I live in a house which is a little bit of a garden and everything, and it's not very crowded, this area, but still, for many, many years, we haven't seen crows. We have not heard the chirping of birds or the sound that lizards make. Nothing, because everything has become so noisy in a city, in the urban life. Now with the lockdown, everything has become so quiet. I can, smell the flowers because the breeze is fresh, and then I can hear the sounds of nature, and I can enjoy everything, and I can see the sky. It's not smog-ridden the
Oh,
whole year.
yes. Yes, yes, that's true, because that's what, like, as you were saying, and so everything has a positivity also. This
Yes.
lockdown, this a so like, the is it like, can you just explain this, that whatever happens for, maybe for a greater, we have to understand the greater truth of it. We have to understand that nature, mother earth had to balance. We were losing that balance, humanity. We had taken away deforestation. What has happened to Kaveri? So like, we have utilized, and we have only used nature for our benefits, but that cannot be done. So this lockdown, as you were saying, yes, we have seen nature in a different way. In just matter of 2 weeks, the sky was clear, the temperature went down, we had a beautiful weather, everything. So like, is that a realization that we as humans should come to understand, that what is happening is happening for the greater balance, that life, the greater life needs. We have to maintain that cycle, and we have to maintain that balance.
I do think this is a lesson which the pandemic has brought for all of us. I sometimes think the cosmic has given us this pandemic because we were not just using nature, we have been abusing nature. In our own selfish quest, we've been abusing nature. We have been forgetting little, I think even in one family, the bonding was no longer there. People meeting each other, having a meal together, talking, understanding what the next person is doing. All these qualities were being lost. Compassion towards human beings, helping people, because let them also have what we have, share what we have. I think all these very beautiful qualities of compassion, of bonding, of loving, of cherishing, all these were being lost. And the worst thing is, we never thought twice before building a dam, or before, entire expanses of the ocean. We just filled it up with earth, and we expanded the cities. We never bothered. We just cut down trees and cut down plants, and we just deforestation to such an extent that I think finally, and what about all the pollution in the rivers and you see, it just brings me to there was a very great scientist, physicist, who was reading the Valmiki Ramayana and the Tulsi Ramayana, both of them. Why was he reading it? Because he was on a project of cleaning the Ganga, because it had become बहुत मैली हो गई. So he was doing that because he was studying. You see, when from the Vimana, the description of the earth below is given. The algae and the plants and all that were there in the river finds description. So they were replanting all those, and they realized that the oxygenation content in the water of the river increased with all that. So you see, he just destroyed everything. We didn't bother, and we polluted everything. I think nature. She sent us the storms. She sent us the cyclone. She sent us the tsunami. She sent us drought. She sent us everything. Finally, she said, "Let me send this pandemic. Then you all will internalize. You all will sit back and think, have we been doing right? Should we not respect nature? Should we not respect natural feelings? Should we not respect humanity? And should we not live as one bonded family, respecting each other, nature respecting us, we respecting nature, and we loving and having maitratva between all of us? I very seriously feel that it is a warning from nature, and we should learn from this, because let's look at the half full glass. That is the half full glass. Because if we look at the half empty, yes, there's been a lot of misery, a lot of suffering, people going out of jobs. People are talking about guys from IT not having jobs, and taxis and autos not flying. I'm talking about artists. Every artist has lost his or her livelihood. And we don't know when it will commence. Because without performance and without, see, it's fine, you and I are on this Zoom now. But what about, how long? It's much nicer to have a personal contact. And similarly, performance is part of music, dance, exhibitions, painting, sculpture. And unless we move as a society again, where is the future of art, which is our identity, our culture, our history, that which makes us proud. Our history, our present, our past, our present, and our future, not just the past.
Yes, so like, yes, it is a time to, I think and what was our culture, what we should have done, and how we have misused maybe. And it's better that we all move together again and hand in hand respect each other, respect what we have got, and also give a bit also. We have always thought of us, and we have only thought of our needs, which is, I guess, not right. And as artists also, since we have this special quality of giving, of sharing, so it is
Sharing.
a, yes. And it is, yes, it is because as an artist we have that, we out to be on the stage also to share our
Share.
emotions, to give it, to
Share our experiences.
yes, share our experiences, share uh, and share happiness and give happiness. And
Sure.
so
Absolutely important. Ananda.
ananda. So yes, so that is important. And so finally we'll come to the last question. Like, as you were saying, yes, as an artist, so we do have a role to play in this pandemic as an artist
Yes.
and natural disaster. What is our social role as an artist, and what message do you want to give to the future generation, how to overcome this situation and move on? As you said, we have to move on. So what is the message?
We have to reinvent ourselves, but very important, we should not reinvent our values. We must have high values. We shouldn't reinvent our values. We should see how we can reinvent ourselves to suit the situation, because right now we don't know where we are going and what is happening. But I do know that the Association of Bharatanatyam Artists is helping artists by collecting funds. When I was president of Association of Bharatanatyam Artists, we had this huge flood in Chennai. We were just totally drowned. And what I did was I collected a lot of money, and I was at that time member secretary of our state Tamil Nadu Elishe Nadakam. That is our state academy of dance, music, literature, theatre, and folk art. So I identified people from every form, and through my official connections, and through Abhay, I distributed the money. But this time, the whole world is suffering. A lot of people could give a lot of money. But I do think we need to reach out, each one of us, and artists are doing it. It's not that they are not doing it. They are reaching out to those who are suffering more, and they are helping. Okay, if you have that much, at least share this much. If you have a meal, at least share something with the person who has nothing. yes, we must be sensitive. And as an artist, we must, as you say, we share. We must be, mm, we must be sensitive enough to share and to help them. And also, I think young people like you should get together and see how we can improve upon the livelihood of artists. What, see how society is going. I mean, how this pandemic is going to treat us. How now we've almost opened out completely, but unlock has happened. But then what happens to us? Because we need stages, we need closed auditoria, we need our musicians to be sitting there. Maybe we should go into open air presentations and where distance can be maintained and look at it from that, look at different spaces. And I think by our own behavior, we should be able to uh, influence society. I think if we have compassion, if we have charity, if we show through our example that we care for the next person, the others would also care. Very important, yes. Talking about social distancing, I don't quite like that word because social distancing almost feels as though the bonding, the word social, the bonding is being broken. It should be physical distancing.
Physically.
Yeah, we must set an example and maintain the physical distancing. We must wear the masks. We must educate people, and why we can make masks and share them. We can. There's so many things. There are little things we can do like that. But there are also artists who, through little productions, bring awareness of the situation and what should be done. I feel just talking about the negativity is not enough. But showing positivity, I think, is extremely important. You see, once we have a production called Sneha. Sneha is it means friendship, and there's a lot of instrumental music in it, and we adapt it for any situation. The first time we ever did it was to create awareness about nature. So that is, we did it. And right, planting of trees, the trees growing, and then we did it for cancer. We created awareness through that production. We created awareness of what we must do for society. Do we just read our uh, old great books, our epics, and keep them as epics? Should we not learn from what is the essence? Now, we in that production, we showed the stories of Karnaji Mutavahana and Karnaji Mutavahana and what the other two? Indra, and finally we came up to Gandhi. So, what is it that great people have not given? So, from that, we took it to what all we can do. So production like that creates awareness. Yes, it's a production. But there's a long time by the time we can get to a production, each one of us in our own way. But then we must first support and help artists. We must create awareness about what should be done and should not be done through our lives example.
Okay, so yes, so according to you, and that's what this was about, that great personalities like you can set an example. You are an example, and you are an example to follow, and others also should learn that that awareness has to be created. We have to move on together, and yes, and it is about being together, helping each other out, and
Very
yes, and we have to fight this out and move out of this together, and because and wait for that again to move on to the stage, and maybe alter our little bit, as you were saying, outlook, maybe go to a wider open spaces, and maybe with time we have to change a bit as stage aspect and all that space where we are. And so, but finally we have to move on together and help each other out. And you gurus like you, if setting an example, you are the light giver and you show the path. And since, as you also agree, that there is a role for artists, there is a role to set an example even in this pandemic, and that we have to move on and help each other out, as you have helped maybe previously also and still helping. And you have given this message to everyone and given spared this time. And thank you so much, Akka, for sharing your thoughts. And I hope we have learned a lot, and I hope you have in light, sharing your thoughts with us. And as I said, you have been an inspiration, and I have always admired and adored your works. And I really, it is my, I mean, we are grateful that you shared your thoughts with us and spent time with us. Thank you so much, Akka.
Thank you so much, Jalsa. Let me just end on one note. It's not just gurus. We are not, I just think we are acharyas. It's anybody who can be such an example. I read the story of this little girl who gave all her money, her pocket money, so that the monkeys could be fed, because they were also starving in this pandemic. So that little child teaches us a lesson. And during the floods, all artists were getting together, cooking, giving packets, everything. But here, this little child is such an eye opener. She took her pocket money and she gave it and said, "Please feed these monkeys." Now I'm thinking of artists. We are thinking of people. We are thinking of society. We must also think of nature's animals, nature's plants. Everything is nature around us. And it is nature who gives us that energy, which bursts forth finally from all of us.
Yes. So, So as you said, yes, it is. Thank you so much, Akka. Learning from you, learning from everyone, and learning from the lessons that you told, and how everyone can be an example.
Yes.
And respect. Yes, and respect everyone, and respect what nature has given to us. Thank you so much, Akka. Pranam.
अश्वत्थं प्राहुरव्ययम् छन्दांसि यस्य पर्णानि यस्तं वेद स वेदवित् अश्वत्थः सर्ववृक्षाणां देवर्षीणां च नारदः गन्धर्वाणां चित्ररथः सिद्धानां कपिलो मुनिः.
Namaskar. With the dancers, we celebrate beauty. We worship beauty and we love all the beautiful things. We lay much importance on aesthetics of the dance and we choose very carefully the beautiful themes, and nature is a beautiful theme for us. The nature, the rains, the mountains, the trees, the creepers, the river, the breeze, the flowers, the lotus, the bees, the bees. Bird, bird perched on a tree. It flew away. Cuckoos. And lot many things. The peace. And nature is very near to us. We compare our items with the germination of a plant, like Mangalacharan, when we sow a seed on the ground, and Batu when it becomes a tree, and Pallavi when the flowers bloom, and Abhinaya when it gives us fruit, and Moksha is the final stage, when the call comes from the heaven and the plant has its own time in this place. So nature is very near to us and we must preserve the nature for our own safety and own care. প্রকৃতি না থাকলে আমরা বিপদে পড়ব। প্রকৃতি আমাদের আপনার আমাদের নিজের। This is actually external nature, the nature we see, but the nature inside us, what we feel, like good nature, bad nature, all the emotions. Sometimes we are hungry, sometimes we are sad, sometimes we don't know what we will do. And we think that dance is a system of yoga, and the first step is to restrain yourself, control your emotions. That is called yama or shakti. So the first thing is to control yourself, to stay away from the 6 enemies, that is called Sadari, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Moda, and Master. With the dancers, we dance for happiness. We dance with happiness, we get happiness, and we also give happiness to those who see our dance. So, the key word is Ananda, the bliss inside us. And so that we can have peace with happiness. And in this difficult time, I would say that we will also be scared to be unhappy and to be afraid of anything. So enjoy with the nature outside and nature inside.
मध्यतो विष्णुरूपिणे अग्रतः शिवरूपाय वृक्षराजाय ते नमः।